in classical music, whether it's Hindustani or Carnatic, I've always wondered why it's so special, why it's looked upon as a very special thing for women to play percussion. I think in general, percussion has been slotted as a male space. I'm not sure when this kind of notion entered, but I have, because when you look at history, we've traditionally had women playing the mridangam, playing the kanjira, and especially women from the Devadasi communities would all be trained to do this. And we have somebody like Kanakambujam or Ranganayaki Ammal who played the mridangam regularly. In fact, M.S. Subbulakshmi also had training in the mridangam. So from history we know that these were not rigid spaces at all. Anybody who learnt music would learn the various components that made up that music. There's music, of course, there's the song you learn, there's melody, you need to know everything about it. There's an interesting article that came out, I think, in the 60s, during the time that my guru started playing it. It was a Tamil article, and it says, Pengal Ghatam Vasikalama, which means, can women play the Ghatam? So at that point, because my guru had started training under Viku sir, I suppose at that point there was some kind of a debate that was happening around, can women play the Ghatam? And there's a very telling line that this person who wrote that article put into that piece. There is an interview with Viku Vinayakram sir, and at the end of it, the writer has made some inferences from that, and he says, maybe this instrument cannot be played by Indian women. And I find that very interesting, and linking it to the fact that at that point there were men who were playing bare-chested because of the particular gumiki sound that needs to be churned out of the instrument by bringing the mouth of the Ghatam close to your belly, and it's that air column that creates that sound. So because it used to be played bare-chested, I suppose there's this whole thing about how a woman should dress and what should be her presence on stage. And I found this particular line, that it's not okay for Indian women to play. Maybe the writer was also saying that it's okay for other women to play it. And I can only conjecture at this point that the writer is making certain assumptions about what an Indian female body is like and what a Western woman's body is like. So I suppose he's saying that it's okay for somebody else to play it because they can bear their stomachs, but an Indian woman can't do that. So, but of course, traditionally men have played it bare-chested and because they wanted to bring the sound out. But my guru has done so much research on how, as a woman clad in a sari, she could produce the same sound. And after many, many years of working on it, she's today able to produce the same sound that would emanate from the Ghatam's contact with the body. It's interesting, although I play with my guru and her band, I play with other women artists, we've still not been able to break the shackles of gender, because the fact that you're playing as part of a women's band is also a certain assertion of gender. Although women do play, and now there are more women, more girls that have been taking up percussion, but always I find that there is a certain gaze that is directed at them. There's a certain way in which they're acknowledged, and it's always the fact that you're a woman first and then you are an artist, or then you are a percussion player. It is very common for me to hear this in a lot of concerts, that either my guru plays or other women are on stage or I am on stage. At the end of it, somebody will say, oh, but she's a woman and she's done a brilliant job. At the time that my guru started playing on stage, I think people would directly say, okay, you can play or you cannot play. 40 years later, a lot of us, other women, are playing. I think many things remain the same, but things are said and done in a more subtle way. Nobody sort of says you don't play, but there are other ways in which these things, other ways in which patriarchy and condescension creeps in. And that, I think, is sometimes more scary than what happened 30, 40 years ago. So there have been times when a Ghatam player's mic is switched off. And there are times when somebody will say, okay, just reduce the volume of the Ghatam because it's picking up sounds from the Mridangam. So things like that. These are more subtle and more interesting, I think, ways in which patriarchy creeps in. On the other hand, when I or when other women play with men, sometimes the idea is also, okay, that I have a woman in the band today. Sometimes it's tokenistic, sometimes it's just to create it as an interesting band which has a mix of both. So it's never on it's never a thing that, okay, I'm playing with a good artist today. It's always about, okay, I have to bring 2 women into my band today, and then my band is going to get more popular, or it's going to attract some eyes or whatever. I don't know what it is. But it's a strange thing. On one hand, you're saying you don't want women and you do it in very subtle ways. On the other hand, there are these times when you create a certain exoticism about it, or a certain and you're performing for a certain gaze. And I find this contradiction very interesting as well. Another interesting way in which the Ghatam defies any sort of categorization is the way it challenges what a woman's body is perceived like. So the minute you place a pot on a woman's body, it's like Shurpanaka's pot belly. It's an ugly body, or it is a pregnant body. It's not the beautiful, slender woman's body that we normally talk about. And the Ghatam pushes that. The Ghatam immediately makes the woman's body something else that is not stereotypical. Also, the way in which the Ghatam is played, the use of the hands, the use of fingers, it is possible to have wounds on your fingers, which again defies the idea of the woman's slender fingers, and the way it is. We've all received it in classical poetry, and the way it stereotypes the woman's body. All that is completely shaken by the fact that a woman plays the Ghatam. So in a lot of ways, whether it's the way the pot is placed on the body, or the way it is played, in all ways it challenges the idea of what a stereotypical woman's body should look like. But at the same time, the Ghatam is also a symbol of a womb. Kabir has talked immensely about why the Ghatam is the womb from which all creation springs. And that again is such a feminine idea. So the Ghatam space is such a space of contradiction. It's such an in-between space. At once, it is, yes, the symbol of a woman, it is the symbol of the woman's body, and at the same time, it makes a woman's body ugly. Again, there is a huge conflict, and this in-betweenness is what the Ghatam brings into our life. The more and more we defy binaries and explore in-betweenness, I think it's like the middle path that Buddha talks about. There is that in-betweenness that needs to be explored in all binaries.